Hey, what's up? This is Jamal Abbott. Thanks for tuning in. Got a special guest here today. I'm really excited about this young man. He might be actually a couple years older than me, but really excited. we're,
Woo,
we're
young
about to have
man.
some fun already. Really excited to have Bill on the show, somebody that I've been looking up to, and just can't wait for him to share his wisdom and knowledge for everybody here. So, Bill, if you can, just introduce yourself and tell us who you're all about.
Yeah, definitely, man. Appreciate the opportunity. Bill McCleskey here, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the guy who, went to school, went to college, and got out and got a job, and realized that I was not fit to be working a job. I needed to work for myself because I wanted to make my own decisions, but most importantly, I wanted to have unlimited potential in the income that I earned. So I started companies, very early in my early 20s, even in college, had a side business. But recently, about 6.5 years ago, I started a company called Mitech Partners. And Mitech is a telecommunications firm. We help businesses nationwide shop for internet, voice, and TV service between over 100 carriers. And so we like to call ourselves the Expedia.com of telecommunications. We simplify that process so businesses don't have to call the big cable company or the big phone company, and they can streamline those processes. But we're excited about the things that we're doing at Mitech. And I'm also excited about a new company I started recently called The Grind Includes Friday, TGIF. And that's a personal development or professional development company for entrepreneurs. We coach and help entrepreneurs through content and other programs on how to push through, their perceived limitations or how to crush their goals and make money. So we're excited about some things we got coming up there with TGIF as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the introduction there. So yeah, one of the questions I typically ask people, especially during this time with COVID and coming into 2020, I know that you had some plans set in place on how 2020 was going to look like. Then this big shift happened with COVID. So how has this affected your plan, if at all? And then what moves have you made since this time that we're dealing with?
Yeah, definitely. So, our plans, I'm going to tell you, Jamal, so our plans for 2020, we had our goals, we had our revenue goals, and then we always back revenue goals up by activity. So, what are our activity goals? Like what type of, traction or penetration or engagement are we going to have with potential customers, potential referral partners and vendors and things like that. So we had those activity goals set. And I'm gonna tell you, the activity goals did not change, at all. I told my team, I said, listen, we may change the message, but we're still gonna knock out these activity goals. We're gonna call so many people a day. We're gonna do our email marketing strategy, every single week. We're gonna do the same thing. Now the message changes because instead of saying, hey, we got some great telecom services for you that can solve these problems, we're not just coming out the gate with that. We're saying, hey, listen, how you doing? How's COVID-19 affecting your business, and what opportunities are you uncovering? Because what we found is that this pandemic is affecting or impacting people differently. We do a lot of business in hospitality, for example. So we've got about 100 hotel customers. So the travel industry was hit really hard, and hotels. I had hotel owners on the phone with me, almost crying like, hey, I got to shut down my business and all this other stuff. And then I had other hotel clients. They were excited. They were buying new hotels. They were calling us saying, hey, we just bought a new property. I need you to quote out the internet and TV service for this
Oh,
property.
wow.
And I just got an email this morning, man, from a guy, a hotel Quality Inn in Oxford, Alabama. He's saying, hey, we're ready to move forward and get the updated pricing for fiber internet and TV service and phone service for our hotel. So, I mean, it depends on who you're talking to, right? And that's just a matter of what position were they in before COVID-19 hit, right? Were you really ready for a pandemic, or were you already on edge, right? But I think that we're trying to figure out, okay, where are you right now based on this pandemic, okay? Because some people's businesses is flourishing big time. Some people's businesses are really not impacted. And then some people are just like below zero. So we're going to meet you where you are, So the clients that are below zero and they have to shut down, we're doing whatever we can and bending over backwards to help them, in terms of how we relate to them with the services that we offer. And also just being friends to them, having that relationship with them and saying, hey, here's some resources that you can use. We're sending out links and things like that to help them with the SBA PPP loan and the EIDL loan and all this other stuff, right? So it's not just about telecom and business. So we're trying to help. But if your business is doing well, if you're flourishing, if you blowing up, you're essential, and you stuff is going through the roof, like, we're there for you too. So I mean, there are some customers we had to help them go remote. We had a small call center, and we had to help all their employees go remote. So we had to set them up on a brand new platform, voice over IP, and all this other stuff. So I mean, it's just things like that, man. We're meeting people where they are, and but our activity has not changed. In fact, I think it's stepped up.
I like what you said too, like you change the message, but you're not changing the approach to how you're going out there and then trying to make things happen for your business as well as other businesses. So I think that's good that you're actually doing that. Take me back a little bit further here. So I read your book, Get Off Your Assets. It was a great book, very inspirational. And you had talked about a business that you had started there previously. And I'm just curious, what lessons did you learn from that experience, and how have you taken those lessons and applied that moving forward with your current company, and then what you're probably going to be doing here in the next few years and decades to come?
Sure. So I had a company called, before I started Mitech, I had a company called Soul Lounge, and Soul Lounge was a lot of fun. I'm telling you, just didn't make any money, right? Over an extended period of time, but Soul Lounge, we promoted concerts, and it started with just me promoting the independent bands in Nashville, at a BB King's locally here. And every Sunday night, we had this event called Soul Lounge, and it just blew up, man. Like, people love to come to Soul Lounge every Sunday night. We pack out BB King's and feature bands and have open mic and a DJ and all this stuff. And we would promote it online, Facebook and Twitter and all that. And other venues started hitting me up from different cities and say, hey, can you bring Soul Lounge here? Can you bring Soul Lounge here? And I was like, it's just an event. You can do it yourself, But then somebody told me, no, they want you to do it. This could be a money opportunity. So I started bringing Soul Lounge to other cities, man. Atlanta, Huntsville, Memphis, Louisville, as far north as Brooklyn, New York. And then we went as far south, I think, as Huntsville, Alabama. But it kind of blew up, man. We're in 20 plus cities, and we started touring national acts too. So I got some investors, and we started doing these national, major concerts. And nice. What I really learned from that was, in business, you really have to work to eliminate the risk. Okay. And I was so exposed, in that business, because, promoting concerts is a very risky business. If people don't show up, guess what? You still got to pay the artist and the venue and marketing, staff, hotel rooms and all this stuff, travel. So, I would try to get sponsors, and I had a little success getting sponsors, because what the big promoters do is they get, sponsors to pay for everything. And then the ticket sales is just gravy. Well, I never got there, right? Because I'm this little independent company, but man, I remember, 1 month I made 30 grand. The next month I gave it all back, plus some. So it was just this up and down roller coaster. And I said, we got to figure out how to eliminate the risk. How can I win no matter what? I may win big, I may win a little, but the loss is actually winning a little. How can I get there? And so the last month I was really full time with Soul Lounge. I lost about 30 grand. And I write about that in my book. And I was depressed for like a day. And then the next day I was depressed for half a day. And then I slowly came out of that like intentional depression where I was just in the bed and just like, oh my gosh, woe is me. And I said, I got to figure out what to do. So I ended up getting a job. I was like, I got to get a job. And I knew I always had sales jobs. So I was like, I got to get a sales job and where I can make unlimited money almost. Like I can make a ton of money and pay this debt back because I owed everybody. And working at Comcast is really a blessing. And that's why, the book you mentioned, Get Off Your Assets, is really a spiritual book. A lot of people say it's a business book, but for me, it's a spiritual book because, now that I look back, had Soul Lounge never flopped, I never would have worked at Comcast and I never would have started Mitech, right? Mm-hmm. So, you look back at the journey and you see, okay, this was supposed to happen because I took everything I learned. So when I got to Comcast, I was an amazing networker. You know, I was able to build relationships really quick, gain rapport, and get people trust me and connect the dots and get things moving really quick. But I learned that from Soul Lounge, because I had to call all these promoters in other cities, you know, connect with them over the phone, get them to trust me, get venue owners to trust me. Who is this guy calling from Nashville, Tennessee, who wants to come to Brooklyn to do a show, right? But I mean, we went there, did the show, packed it out, and the owner was like, "When you coming back?" Right? So we were able to do that because I was great at building these relationships. So when I got to Comcast, I'm like, building relationships is my thing. And so Comcast, you know, was a super easy job to me, and I was able to make 6 figures and pay off my debt and then get rolling again. But what I noticed at Comcast, I said, oh, these people pay these bills every month, number one. Okay. I noticed that at Comcast, you know, people need their internet. People need, you know, phone service and TV service. For a business, these are essential services, at least the phone and internet, right?
Absolutely.
So I knew, I said, I need to be selling an essential service. And the other thing I liked about it was these are recurring services. Like, you pay for them, you never pay them off. It's not like a car where you can eventually pay the car off or the house off or whatever. So I said, man, if I could get a piece of this bill every month. The problem with being an employee was, you know, I only got a one-time commission working at Comcast. I sold deals. I blew out my quote every month. They paid me well, but I never got the residual income or the recurring commission. So I had to start my own business to do that. So once I figured out how to do that, I said, okay, I got it. I'm out. I'm eliminating risk because I'm getting paid every month, and these are essential services. So that was really key to me and kind of the transition there.
One thing that I think about too, when you're talking about your experience doing the event promoting, and then what you're doing now with Mitech, and then even what you learned through Comcast, was this part about building relationships. So I'm a big fan of like relationship building right now. And as I'm on my own entrepreneurial journey, I realize that you can't really get a whole lot of places if people don't like you. If they don't like you, they're not going to want to buy from you. They're not going to refer your service. So that's something that I've really taken away since I've been on this journey. So if you can just talk a little bit more about how somebody, let's just say somebody is maybe introverted or maybe is not all that outgoing, how do they work on maybe getting that confidence to really start making relationships and making connections with other people?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, the way I think you grow in that area is just by doing it, you know. I mean, it's just like, how does a baby learn to walk? You know, they get up, they fall down, they get back up. Because anything if you're an introvert, if somebody considers themselves an introvert, that means you like being yourself, or you cool with you being in solitude, and you're not really outgoing and flamboyant. But if you know that that's something a skill that you need to develop, you just got to start doing it, you know. And are you going to screw up sometimes? Is it going to feel awkward? Are you going to look weird? Yep, you are. You know, just get over it. But it's kind of like riding a bike, you know. It's kind of like swimming, you know. Because I remember one time I was telling somebody the other week when I was in I went to Belize a couple of times when I was in college on some missionary trips. And when we had this whole day in Belize where it was just fun time, right? So we went to the beach, and there were some instructors teaching us how to snorkel. So, you know, they would say, okay, you know, here's your mouthpiece, and you put this in, and you put your goggles on, and you put your what's the things you put on your feet, you know, you're flapping, and they tell us all these rules and the procedure, and now we know how to snorkel. And actually we don't, because all they did was give us information. Like, we actually have to get in the water to learn how to snorkel. So and I know how to swim very well, but it's kind of hard, like holding this in, and then the first time I'm getting water in my mouth and the water gets in my goggles, I'm like, dang. But after 3-4 times, I start getting the hang of it, and after an hour, I'm a pro, right? And that's the same thing. Like, you just got to get out there and start building relationships. But the kicker is, I think that people don't understand how to network. You know, I thought about writing a book on how to network, but networking to me is kind of something you mentioned. People got to like you, right? So you have to understand people. Like, why do people like other folks? People like people that are like what? Themselves, right? So people like people that are like themselves. So figure out, you know, how to add value, number one, and figure out how to get people to like you. but you have to do it in a genuine way. You have to really figure out, hey, what is this person trying to accomplish and all that good stuff. But, so for example, if I go to a networking event or if I want to connect with somebody, I'm always trying to figure out how I can help them, how I can add value to that person, right? Or that organization. And then my goal is always in 24 hours to add value to that person. Okay. So that could be sending them a referral, that could be making an introduction, that could be sending them a link to an article that may, be interesting to them, inviting them to an event, something. I'm going to add value to that person. And while I'm talking to them, I'm going to ask them questions to give me some intel so that I can add value. So, and I teach my team to do that now too. I'm like, in 24 hours, like, add value, right away. Because now you stand out amongst everybody else. Because everybody else is like, hey, let's meet, let's get together. Hey, do you need my service? Hey, do you know somebody that needs my service? And right. It's not about that. It's like, yo, how can I help you? Because we all have those people that when they call us, we look at the caller ID and we're like, okay, I'm not answering that, right? And then we have people that when they call us, we're like, yo, that's probably going to be a valuable call. Let me catch that, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's the person you want to be. You want to be the person when you show up on call ID, that folks are answering your call because you're going to add value.
All right. So on entrepreneurship, and I can tell, Bill, you really enjoy yourself. You're having lots of fun. Can you just talk a little bit more about why this is so much more fun compared to what you were doing with your corporate 9-to-5 job in the past?
Hey, man. Hey, don't get it twisted, though. I have fun working in Comcast because, Comcast was an outside sales job. So we never had to go in the office. The only thing I didn't like about Comcast was they started micromanaging me and I just couldn't make as much money. They had an income, cap, right? They kept changing the rules. But I'm having so much more fun because I get to write the script. I get to write the script. And I think that not to get too deep, but I did mention my book, Get Off Your Assets, is like a spiritual book because it's about my journey, right? It's about my spiritual or my entrepreneurial journey and really discovering that, hey, everything that I needed was already within me. That's why I need to get off my assets, right? And start using them. So the fact that I get to determine, what I can do next, even just like, starting Mitech and then trying some things within Mitech and then starting the GrindIncludesFriday.com. That stemmed off of Mitech because I started doing these videos for our referral partners every week because our referral partners are a lot of IT consultants. And I found out that they needed help selling, right? Or they needed help communicating, or they needed help with a salesperson's mindset, right? They had a good skill set in technology, but they didn't know how to engage their customers and stuff like that. So I started doing these videos and then they started loving them and I started doing more of them every week. And I just called it the Grind Includes Friday. And they started sharing them online, but that actually turned into a whole company, right? Because I realized, hey, our referral partners don't just need this. I don't want to just add value to them and help their business. Although when I help them, it helps us grow. I can help other industries, right? I can help other salespeople, other entrepreneurs. So that was really key. But when I think back on the comparison, between working at Comcast or working at 9-to-5, every time I tried to do something a little different, it was shut down. I remember going to my boss, right, when I worked at my previous job, and I said, listen, I'm getting these referrals every week from like 2 or 3 guys, and they're just IT consultants. I said, I want to go after more IT consultants because that's going to, build up my referral engagement. Yeah. And my boss was like, no, don't do that because that's not duplicatable. I'm like, what? And this is a guy, he makes more money the more successful I am, right? He gets override on my commissions. And I told him some other stuff I was doing. He was like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because I'm making money, right? But it's the difference is, man, I can be led by what I see as valuable, what adds value to other people, and then I can run with it. So that's why it's so fun to me, man. And you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna falter, but you learn from them, you get back up, you keep pushing.
So I want to transition here just a little bit. You're definitely a mentor. You're definitely somebody that loves to share, and it's not holding back.
No
I
doubt.
want to know if you could talk to some of the younger entrepreneurs out there, especially the folks that are like minority, right? So the one thing that I've noticed is that there wasn't a whole lot of people of color in the technology space, especially
Yeah.
since I've been through the Air Force and just been in different environments. I, I was mainly that main minority, and there might have been some other individuals, in the company or in the organization, but not too many people that look like me. So if you can talk to the young entrepreneur, maybe somebody that's looking to get into tech, what advice or what would you tell them about this opportunity that you're currently in right now?
Well, to me, it's a level playing field. It's an absolute level playing field. This country is a trip because it's a crazy history. And when I first started my company, man, I would walk in the rooms as well, and I'd be the only African American in the room, right, or African American male in the room. And this was at technology events or technology networking events or trade shows or conferences. And fortunately, the way I grew up, I always went to predominantly white schools anyway, except for college. I went to HBCU for college, but Fisk University. But junior high, high school, I went to predominantly white schools. So when I would go to these events, I wouldn't necessarily like feel out of place. And I think that the energy that I gave off said that. I felt like I was supposed to be there. I literally did. And I felt like sometimes people were kind of standoffish. I felt like people kind of looked past me, or took me for granted, maybe initially at least. But I'm not tripping on that because I know our history. I know this country, so I'm just going to take advantage of the opportunity. So I'm in an organization right now called the EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. It's an international group, very prestigious entrepreneur group, and there's chapters all over the world. The Nashville chapter is the biggest chapter in the country. The largest chapter in the world is in Tokyo, and then Mumbai, and then Nashville is the third largest in the world. So, but the organization has, the Nashville chapter has about 250 members. 4 of them are Black. And guess what? When we go to meetings and we do this, look, I know I'm one of the few Black folks in the room, but I think that it's valuable, man. It's absolutely valuable in so many ways. Number one, sometimes I'm probably the only exposure or reachable access that some of these people have to a Black person, believe it or not. So I think it's important for me to communicate with them, right? And be on point. But for folks wanting to get in tech, the opportunity is absolutely amazing. I think that if you can produce, companies don't care, at the end of the day. And they want you to produce. They want to drive results. And now companies are getting paid, basically, or I ain't gonna say getting paid, but there's an initiative. There's the diversity initiative, right? So companies want to hire people of color. They want to put more women in positions in technology. So let's take advantage of it. Let's take advantage of it. I always tell people the way to get the conversation about reparations comes up. The way to get your reparations is to be an entrepreneur, right? The other way to get your reparations is to take advantage of opportunity when you see it. Like if companies want to hire people of color, let's take advantage of that. If companies are giving contracts to minority businesses, let's take advantage of it, right? Because think about the people who paved the way for us, and not just in business, but period. Harriet Tubman could have said, I'm giving up, right? I'm not going back down there and helping other people become free. Right. But our ancestors didn't give up. They could have jumped off the slave ship, but they didn't, right? That's why we're here. We're actually existing here because somebody didn't give up. So we have a responsibility, I believe, to take advantage of these opportunities and just blow them out the water, make that impact.
So talk about your latest personal development project. You talked about the Grind Includes Friday. You also have a challenge out there to help people hit 7 figures by 2025, correct?
Absolutely.
So can you just talk a little bit more about that? Because I'm interested, and I don't want to say I think this is crazy, but I really like the idea, and just want you to share with
Yeah.
the audience what's going on here with this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, so when I wrote my book, Get Off Your Assets, that book, I was really passionate. I've always wanted to be an author, okay, but I also didn't just want to write a book, just for the sake of saying I got a book. The reason I wrote that book is because I had reached a certain level of success in my business with Mitech, and I learned so much about myself. And I felt so passionate about that journey and what I learned about me and about, the journey itself. I said, man, I gotta share this with people, And at that point, I would talk to entrepreneurs off and on, maybe a few times a week, and I would just share, my story with them. I'm like, yo, you can do this. Like you actually have everything that it takes to do this. Because when I started my company, I thought I needed to raise money. I thought I needed all these contacts. I thought I needed other resources and a certain skill set. And I didn't. Like what I needed to do was trust my gut. What I needed to do was get out here and work. What I needed to do was use what I already had, right? And continue to develop it. And I think everybody can relate to that message, right? So that's why I wrote the book, because I wanted to get that message out. And so the message about helping 100 entrepreneurs build a 7-figure business is really key, because that's what I did. I set a goal. My first financial goal was to match my income from my previous job. So I was making about 130 grand a year at Comcast. I said, man, if I could match my income, that'll be amazing to me, right? Because now I got the same income, but I don't have to work for somebody else, right?
Right.
But after 1 year, I realized, you know what, this thing is crazy. Like match my income, that ain't nothing, right? So my goal then was to build $1 million company, and God's my witness. That's what we did. Like we built a 7-figure business, never raised money, made a ton of mistakes, still making mistakes. But at the end of the day, we built a roadmap. We built a system, and I'm always, developing, kind of tweaking our systems and processes because I want to teach them, right? And I want them to be duplicatable. And so that's what the grindandcluesfriday.com is about. But this challenge for us, helping 100 entrepreneurs create a 7-figure business is, as I think, very doable. Like if I did it, I tell people all the time, like, y'all just don't understand. I was the class clown in school. Like I was the guy, like I used to get suspended, man, for skipping class and busting in on a substitute teacher. And I would start teaching the class, like stupid stuff, like in high school, right? I mean, I would, I graduated number last in my class. There's about 120 people in my senior class. I was numbered 120. Okay. And so what's crazy about it is I remember as a senior in high school, I remember thinking, okay, on this test, I'm really going to apply myself, okay, to see if I do well. And I would study hard and I would actually do well. I would ace the test. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I'm smart. If I apply myself, now back to being lazy. Like literally, I was like, I ain't working that hard. Like these people work that hard all the time. I don't even study and I get a C, you know what I mean? So that was my mindset. But then, when I got to college, it was totally different. I wanted to do super well in college. And so that's how I got with my business. I just buckled down. I said, let me become a student, right? Of business, of entrepreneurship, of my industry, how this thing works, right? And a student of myself and a student of my mind, right? And so those are the things that I share, like in some of our sales bootcamp courses that we do, and in the new online course that we've created. It's called 7 Steps, 7 Figures, 7 Steps to 7 Figures. But the first part of that is really about mindset. It's about psychology. It's about developing a new identity. Because I guarantee you, man, that's what I had to do. When I started hanging around people who were making more money, I all of a sudden started seeing myself as one of them. I was like, yo, I'm a millionaire too, right? I got $1 million company too. My company was just like 300,000 at the time, right? But right. I was like, yo, so it took time. It doesn't happen overnight, but I had to change my identity. So that's what I go through in the course, because I think anybody can, man, I talk to people. I'm gonna give you an example, man. One of my homegirls, we work in the same office building. It's a big co-working spot called the Entrepreneur Center here in Nashville. And she started a staffing company probably 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago. Last year, she made $5,000. Last year, Okay. This year, her monthly revenue is about $12,000 a month.
Amazing.
Okay. I started working with her last year and she was so stubborn. I said, look, you want to make money? Because she would always come up and talk to me. Hey, what should I do about this? What should I do about that? And we would have these coaching sessions. I said, look, you're in business to make money. What are you doing? And we went through all these, different processes and conversations. And man, I'm telling you, this girl is killing it. She booked Fisk University is one of her clients. She's a staffing company for IT candidates. So, but she just brought on a client, Dollar General. Dollar General is the largest employer in the state of Tennessee, and I know they got locations all over the country. But so she's gonna be filling spots for Dollar General, and she already built a 6-figure business. She's gonna build a 7-figure business. But I know a ton of people like that. And they're either not making money or they're just making 6 figures. And sometimes people get satisfied. They're like, hey, I'm making 200,000, I'm good, right? I'm like, you could be making 200,000 a month, right? If that's what you want to do. So I just think, man, hey, if you want to get there, I want to help people get there. And our online course is really the start of that. And the cool thing about our course is it's not just the online course. It comes with a community of entrepreneurs, because I know that when I started my company, I was so lonely at first, right? And then when I got with a community of entrepreneurs, it held me accountable. So we have an accountability group. You were part of that, Jamal, recently. We have, a speaker series. So with this, I'm only bringing in my buddies who got 7-figure businesses, right? To get involved in the speaker series. We're doing group coaching. And it's a process. So all of this is included because the course itself, man, most people, it's like reading a book. Most people who buy a book, statistics say they read less than 15% of the book, right? So I think that a lot of times entrepreneurs, we have the information or we have access to the information, but that's not enough. You need to be held accountable and you need to have the engagement, right? The constant engagement to help you along the way. So that's how I'm gonna help folks hit 7 figures in their business.
All right, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to be there too.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's get there.
All right, Bill. So we're pretty much out of time, and I really thank you for taking this opportunity to share and just to drop some nuggets. I definitely learned a lot from our conversation. And if people want to learn more about you, where can they go to find you? And go ahead and leave your social media, websites, and anything else that you want to add.
Yeah, definitely. You can generally find all information about me at my website. It's BillMcCleskey.com. That's BillMcCleskey.com. But you can also go to theGrindIncludesFriday.com. Just spell everything out. TheGrindIncludesFriday.com. And here is my ask, man. If I had one ask today, go to Facebook, or in fact, let me just give you another website. Go to TGIFwithBill.com, and that takes you right to our TGIF Facebook group. Join the Facebook group, and you can see everything that we got going on with TGIF. So TGIFwithBill.com, check it out. Would love to engage with you and connect.
All right, yeah, appreciate it. We'll include the links to the show notes, and yeah, we got you covered there. So, Bill, thanks again for your time and good luck to you. And pretty sure we'll be here talking soon.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for the opportunity.